Is the pilot shortage over? This is a question I get all the time in my DMs. People wanting to become pilots, but they're concerned about their future in aviation because they want to know, is the pilot shortage over or is there still a pilot shortage? So there's a couple ways I can go about answering this question, but basically, yes, the pilot shortage is over. And again, everything I'm saying is pretty much public knowledge. So I'm not really giving you any breaking news here. But yes, the pilot shortage, how it was 4 years ago when it was exploding, everyone was getting hired the second they hit 1,500 hours. 500-hour FOs, 300-hour FOs, 200-hour FOs were getting hired at the major airlines from the regionals. It was a wild, wild thing. That phase of the industry does seem to have passed. Now, does that mean hiring is how it's going to be right now, kind of just forever? It's going to be really, really slow, almost impossible to get in anywhere. That's not true. We're kind of more at a stabilized state in the airlines right now to where everything is a little bit stagnant. And we see this throughout the history of aviation. It goes up and it goes down. Hiring, goes quicker and is slower at different points. But the explosion that we saw a couple years ago when there was a massive, massive pilot shortage does seem to have been resolved. And now we're entering more of a regular hiring cycle. Now, with that all being said, there is still, of course, a ton of retirements that are going to be happening over the next 5-10 years in a lot of the major airlines. So that will yield a lot of hiring, as well as a lot of the major airlines have a lot of orders with Boeing and other companies for large orders of aircraft to expand their fleets, and that will also result in more hiring. So it's not like there's a lack of hiring that's going to be happening. It's just going to be happening at more, again, like I said, of a normal rate. And that's why we're seeing it be a little bit more difficult to get into the regionals right now. And that is because the majors, since they've stabilized for the most part, it is their intake of regional pilots has lessened, aka a lot of the captains that are at the regionals ready to move on to the majors are kind of stuck where they're at right now because the majors aren't hiring at the rate that they were, meaning there's not as many upgrade spots for a lot of the FOs in the regionals to upgrade to captain. And then since all of the FOs are kind of where they're at, there's not a lot of new spots for new hire. Now, like I said, this varies company to company. Some companies are hiring more. Some companies are hiring less. Some companies are upgrading to captain quicker. Some upgrades, I can't even speak right now. Some companies are not upgrading. Some majors are still hiring, and some have completely stopped. So at the end of the day, it is a company by company basis, whether or not one, you're going to get hired, two, if you're going to upgrade, and three, if you're going to just progress along quickly, rise in seniority, things like that. That is 100% company to company. But on a very broad scale, if you just ask me the question, is the pilot shortage, and I know what people are referring to when they hear that, they're talking about that boom of hiring a couple years ago. Is that past? Anyone can look at the industry right now and have a pretty conclusive answer to that is not the case anymore. So we will say for the purpose of this video has passed. However, like I said, don't let that discourage you. There is going to continue to be hiring. With that being said, there's no guarantee anyone's going to get anywhere. There's no guarantee you're going to get to the company you want to get to in the time frame that you want to. Eventually, it's very likely you'll probably get where you want to at some point. If that's your goal, it just might take a long time. And again, I'm not trying to say any of this to discourage anyone. I'm just trying to be realistic. There isn't just jobs lined up right now in the aviation industry for everyone. So if you're, working towards your hours right now, it's not like you're just gonna have a job lined up for you when you're finished. A lot of CFIs right now and pilots are trying to get into the regionals and can't right now because there just aren't as many jobs available as compared to a couple years ago. So, like we said, the shortage isn't really indicative of the entire hiring market forever. It's just that phase kind of has passed to a more realistic hiring market, and that's why we're seeing it get a little more competitive. People are, it's a little bit more pick and choose as far as resumes go. So you got to keep that resume up, keep your hours, come and keep pumping in those hours, keep your resumes up to date, and just things like that. So keep yourself competitive, keep flying. Obviously, stay motivated. One day you will get where you want to go. It just might take a little longer just based on the current industry, and that's okay because we're all in the same position. Everyone wants to move to something, and usually if they can't move on to what they want to move on to, someone else can't move into their position, which is what they wanted to move on to. So it's kind of like it's felt all around. So again, don't be discouraged. It is what it is. Just work, and eventually you will get where you want to go. It just might take a little longer.